Zero Foxtrot does not profess to share or promote the opinions and beliefs expressed by show host or guests. The Stay Zero podcast was created to provide a platform for servicemen and women to share their stories. Due to the nature of this podcast, sensitive topics will arise. Conversations about combat, PTSD, drug use, and other such subjects will occur. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Stay Zero podcast. I have Sam Hampton with me today. He's a former Marine, and thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it, and I was glad to be here. Yeah, good times.
Awesome. What unit were you with?
Most of my time I was with VMA 231, the aviation unit over there.
Okay, and you did what, 17 years?
Yep, just a little over 17 years. Yep.
Right out of high school.
Yep.
I did that too.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks after graduation.
I was the same way.
Yeah.
I was like, got to join the real world. So it was like, let's go ahead.
They told me like some people will wait until after summer, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy the summer.
Yeah.
I had a feeling I was going to end up catching some charges or something if I tried to do that.
No, that was later in life. No, but yeah, I understand that because there was plenty of trouble to get into, and opportunities weren't abundant. So it was one of those things where
I was ready to roll.
Yeah.
I was in a small town. Where are you from?
Yeah, real small town as well. Cantonment, Florida is where I grew up. Like, born in Alabama. Don't hold that against me.
Yeah.
But yeah, born in Alabama. We moved to Florida because my dad was a construction worker stuff. And that was where we settled.
Yeah.
And, got through high school. I did the delayed entry program, was trying to get gone even before school was out.
Oh, yeah. I was part of it's DEP, right?
Yeah.
Meeting up at the recruiter's office for pull-ups and formation runs. And, oh, yeah.
Did that for a year. And
really?
Yeah, I think they were wondering if I was going to back out being as young as I was, because at the time I did delayed entry. I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
And I was 17, so then they let me go as soon as I graduated.
How'd your parents feel about it?
My dad, he was prior military way back in the day because I was the last kid had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How many?
Never found
siblings?
out. I got 5.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 brothers and a sister.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How'd mom feel about it?
Don't know
how
she really ever felt about it. We never had that talk.
Okay.
Yeah. But she was always supportive, really, about things like that. So she signed the paper, say I could go before 18.
Yeah, mine fought it pretty hard.
Oh yeah,
she was not. She said she wanted me to, if I was gonna go that route, go college first and be an officer. I was so sick of formal school.
Yep, that's what I was. That was the only reason why I wanted to leave.
I hated it.
I was done.
I hated it.
Yep.
None of it interested me at all. Nothing that they were teaching seemed to have any practical purpose to it. I was just memorize, data dump, and show them that I could study for a test. So I could play sports.
Yep.
Like that's really was the only reward.
Baseball was life, and and then I was racing dirt bikes and stuff.
Oh,
pretty much ever since I was a little. I couldn't even ride a bicycle. I had a dirt bike though.
So, hell yeah. My kid's got a dirt bike now too. I never had one until now. They're pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
If you can stay on it.
Yeah. I think right now I got 6 motorcycles.
Holy shit.
But 8 in the family. Kind of donated his little one to grandkids.
Yeah. And
stuff. But yeah.
Nice.
It's always been my passion was motorcycles.
So you were air wing in the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty big, broad wing, right? What were you doing? What were your roles there?
I was avionics.
Okay.
Did all the electrical work on them. Anything that had a wire touching it, basically. All the instruments, all the controls, everything.
So like an electrician?
Yeah.
For the airplane?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
where'd you deploy?
First thing I did, well, if you're in the Air Force, you call everything a deployment, right? So my first tour duty was in Okinawa. I was out there for a little over 2.5 years.
Wow.
Loved it from there. Deployed from there, actually, because this was all pre 9/11 then. So deploying from there was just Muse, going on detachments and things like that. Getting to go see some fun stuff, though. Going to Iwo Jima and things like that. Tinian Island.
Nice.
Stuff like that. So that was all real fun. And that was just, like I said, pre 9/11, there was nothing going on.
Yeah.
So all it was just repetitive training stuff. We were doing back then, we were doing a lot more the physical stuff, more ground type activities for training, just to keep everyone in shape, really, because, nothing was going on at that time in service life. And then 9/11 happened, and then we were all like, yep, let's go get on the boat. Let's go.
Yeah. What was that change? What did you see from the peacetime to actually kicking off the war?
At that time, so you saw just such an influx of people when we changed, because before, when I came in, it was, you got selected. You had to prove yourself before you even went in, because you wanted to go in. And they're like being real selective with people. They don't want anybody with any trouble. They don't want anybody that's going to be on some PT program. They're like, we're not going to waste our time on you.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was skinny as a rail. So they knew they didn't have any problems with that. 18-minute 3 miles were nothing back then. Couldn't do that now. But
I never could get to the 18. I think 19 was the fastest I've ever. Just long distance and ice don't mix.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And it's funny because as soon as I got in and after 9/11 and stuff, and then coming back to the U.S., it was one of those things where running and doing all the PT stuff like that, particularly running, was, you're like, it was fun when I was doing it for sports. But now that I have to do it for work, I don't like it no more.
It kind of ruined it for me too. Like, I don't like to run. It was Marine Corps required it, and then contracting did as well. And so it was only a 1.5 mile run. Yeah. But yeah, it just made it not fun, I guess. And so I also never really learned how to run. Everything
That's
that I
true.
was
they
doing,
they never go over a technique for running either.
Right. And so I didn't really crack that code until I was contracting, and a friend of mine gave me a mountaineering book, and it was how those guys train, not per distance and for time so much as, well, at least they do it for time somewhat, but more monitoring their heart rate.
Yeah, it's all about energy conservation.
Right. And so it was keeping your heart rate at a low enough level and just running it for a long period of time, so that you, I guess, retained that boost or that ability for a mountaineer because he's got to ski to the cliff's edge in order to climb it. And they're, I'm sure doing it for time, and there's
everything's energy conservation. Yeah.
Right. And so like, how do you speed up that process of getting to the mountain without gassing out so that you can still climb it,
Oh, yeah,
and so I started doing that around my last year of contracting after reading that book, and it absolutely changed. Because before I have to do a 1.5 mile run. I'm just going to run as hard as I can for a 1.5 mile every day, and I'll get better, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get better. I just wanted to throw up at the end of this 1.5 mile run every time, and my times were never really getting noticeably until I learned how to run, and I was like, damn, I could have used that when I was 18.
Oh, yeah. I always found it weird that like doing other activities that really wouldn't considered cardio help my running.
Something maybe more fun.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I'd have been doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
Because,
like rollerblading.
Anything, and you're like, man, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something. And the technique of how you're using your arms is where you're losing a lot of your energy and things like that.
Yeah, you can really tell when people are a smooth, relaxed runner or when they're very tense. Yeah, it just looks awkward.
Tell how their feet are just
it looks
in the ground.
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Running like Phoebe off of Friends. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to the difference was, everyone was there because they really, really wanted to be there. And then you had 9/11 happen, and you had a huge patriotic base come in, which was, it was awesome. I mean, people showing their support and everything like that. It was sort of, comparatively, when you think about it, it's our attack on Pearl Harbor or whatever, it's just, that was our time.
Sure. It fired everybody up.
Oh yeah, it did.
Unified
you had
country.
So many people from the North come in at that time, like Ohio and up. It was just,
wow.
Everybody was from Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like, holy cow. And, but yeah, they were a bunch of good good group of guys, came in at that time. And then you got later on, my third enlistment, and when you get people in that half of them were there because the court ordered them to be, because they were in trouble or something and didn't really want to be there. Yeah,
I had a buddy that
funny.
way. Yeah,
but a lot of them turned out to be great ones, and find out they love it or loved it at the time, anyways.
Yeah, my buddy that faced that was one of the best team leaders that we had in the platoon. And he was a shithead kid, but like just needed some guidance. Like, let's use that energy, that assertiveness, that curiosity in a way that serves the country, and go hunt bad guys.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
You get their attention then. Like here, you can do something a little bit dangerous, a little bit fun, be a leader.
As soon as you throw that in there,
oh yeah,
get that element of danger.
Oh yeah,
you're like, okay, let me try that, and then they're liking it.
I think guys just respond a lot to that.
They do. Yeah.
Make it a little bit dangerous. Let me test myself, and I'm in.
Yeah, and there was things that came up at the beginning of the whole Iraq war and everything, and going against the Taliban and stuff. And there was opportunities given out to people across the Corps to do jobs that they normally wouldn't get to do.
Yeah.
Being an aviation guy and an air wing, we're supporting the guys on the ground, giving them air support, but now they're like, hey, we're going to try some stuff. We're going to do, security detachments for like the MUCO. And when we go into country, would anybody do that? Yes.
Did you do that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, nice.
I loved it.
Tell me about that.
So, I did that in 2004, around there. In 2003, I was in Iraq. We were off the coast on the boat, just supporting and everything like that. That was pretty plain. Didn't get to go really do anything. That's when we took to Crete and got Al Assad all set up for supporting the future operations. But
that was an air base, right?
Yeah. And in 2004, got a chance. They were like, "Hey, we're going to do a personal security detachment for the MUCO."
What is the MUCO? Commanding officer of the MUCO?
Yeah. He's commanding officer of the, Marine element that was going ashore and everything from the boats. We're like, yeah, absolutely want to do that.
Why did you want to do that?
I wanted to be the most well-rounded person. I didn't want to be just stuck in a rut day in, day out. I'm a mechanic, sure. But, I was joining the Marine Corps. I want to be able to use my rifle. I want to be able to do some of the other cool training. For us, it was not the norm. So, we get attached to a grunt unit or something. They're all like, oh yeah, we're going to go do this. Oh, we got a range today. We got to do that. We're all excited because we ain't got to do that.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a platoon sergeant for a group there. Got to go do that. Got a whole bunch more training. Went to AP Hill, Virginia. Got to go play up there at all the Army bases, moving target systems, and go drive tank and do things that we normally didn't get to do. So it was great.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, that's probably going to put us in a much more volatile situation if we deploy over things like that. But, that's why we joined at that time, for sure. You get people joining for college money and stuff, which is fine, and all. But
everybody's got their reason.
Everyone's got a reason. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. At certain times you're like, well, who do you want to the left and the right of you if it's going? Want to be there or not?
Was your intention to do 20 years to stay for the career? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot like most Marines when they go in after they're about 4 years in or 3 years in, if you're on a 4-year contract, and they're like, no damn way I'm going to re-enlist. Nope, ain't doing it. You get closer to it. You're like, yeah, let me go ahead and put in my paperwork and see what's going on, because you don't want to separate from that excitement and things that we could do.
Well, I mean, you were right in the middle of it too. So there was a lot going on. I think if it had been a peacetime, it'd be more difficult.
Yeah. You're like, I can move along.
Yeah. To what end?
Point. Yeah.
Right. If I stay here, I'm pretty well locking myself in for 20, or I need to get out and start moving.
And I always told everybody that was with me, I was like, once I did it and I was getting towards the end of my second one, I was like, I recommend everybody, if they're coming up on it and they have any inclination, go ahead and re-enlist. I mean, it gives you at least another 4 years to think about what you're going to do afterwards.
Have you looked in or done any work with the reserves?
No, I have not. When I got out, it was during the the downsizing. The great downsizing they were doing, and they were
kicking out
anybody that had an NJP or anything medical or anything, that might be a concern. They were gone.
Oh yeah.
So that was the end of that one. I had my package was in to do my last 3.5 years.
So you got to 17 years.
In a month. And 17 years and a month.
Did you just not re-enlist, or they actually?
No, I had my package in. Yeah, I had my package in, and we thought everything was gravy. And
so 17 years, and now we're good. Thank you.
Yep.
We're not going to let you get to 20.
Yeah, it's like, well, we can pay you retirement, or we can just move you along. And that was the whole deal at that time. I'm not. Don't talk much about the politics of it, but I was like, oh, really? And there was like 16 or 17 of us that was in the same exact boat at Cherry Point up in North Carolina. And we're like, are you serious? We're calling the MMSB.
Like y'all were facing your last enlistment. And we're getting pushed out.
Yeah, a lot of them. So you could they gave you a choice too. And they didn't tell you that if you took one of the choices, you couldn't change and try for the second option.
Okay.
Afterwards. So you could put in for your reenlistment like normal, or you could put in, what was it, the VERP, the Voluntary Early Retirement Plan.
Okay.
So if you had 16 or 17 years, you could separate and they took whatever percentage off your retirement, and you could do that. So a lot of people that wanted to go for full 20 and salvage their full retirement, we all put in a reenlistment package. But they don't tell you, hey, if you do that, you're not going to be able to put your VERP in after.
So you had to make a decision of taking an early retirement with a lower level, I guess, not really a pension. But
yeah, sort of.
But payment option, right?
Yeah.
In your retirement.
And it's a pretty good bit less.
Or roll the dice with a reenlistment.
Yeah, and
they saved a lot of money by
did.
Just squashing your, so
they don't
shitty.
tell you.
That's so shitty.
Yeah. And it's, and I wasn't even mad, but like when it came back, it was like, a month left, because, you do your enlistment stuff towards the very end of it. And you find out, they're like, oh, yeah, you're denied. You're like, well, can I put in my VERP?
No.
Oh, no, that's not an option. What do you mean? And then you're sitting there having to make plans.
Oh, man.
So I had a very fortunate transition, though.
Really?
Extremely fortunate. So where I worked, I went to a training unit for my last couple of years while I was in. There's 203, fabulous group, guys there, guys and ladies there. But we had a contract detachment with us that helped us work on the aircraft and stuff. And when it came down to it, they asked, hey, can we add a position and bring him in? Because my unit didn't want me to be getting out or anything like that. It wasn't part of our cards at the time. And they said, yeah. And I left on Friday wearing camis, came back on Monday wearing, Dickies pants and a blue shirt in the exact same shop in the exact same department.
Wow.
So it was like I didn't even get out.
Hell yeah.
And it was funny because I was still like counseling my Marines that I had under me and stuff. And
from a position of freedom, though. Right?
Yeah.
Enjoy that formation,
it was,
bitches.
You're sitting there, you're like, man, that was crazy. So it was, my separation technically didn't happen for a year.
Yeah.
For me, because I was still there with the guys and doing all that.
That's a great way to make that transition, though.
It was.
They spent.
I should have taken a little bit more advantage of it and probably tried to, I don't know, indoctrinate myself back into civilian life a little bit better. I just didn't really even think about it because it was such a fast transition coming off of, sorry, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, finances, and then they created that job for me. I'm like, y'all are amazing. I really appreciate it. So I never had any ill will because of that.
That's a very special case. I've never heard of that happen. I'm sure it has.
I worked there for a year, and then I got a phone call, and that's the reason why I'm in Texas now. So Lockheed Martin, I don't know how they got my number, whatever, but they were like, hey, we're looking for some supervision down here building the F-35. And I came down here, bells on it. I was just assholes and elbows down here because it was an unbelievable job opportunity,
Yeah, that's the most expensive jet ever built, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for the contract, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Quite a few, well into the billions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I forget the number exactly.
It's unbelievable if you look at all the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I don't even know how many countries are involved now because they keep bringing in more and more that are wanting them. And pretty much anybody in NATO has them now.
Yeah.
So they've got contracts for several thousand of them still to be built. And they've only built, I don't know, I think they're probably up to 900 or 1,000 maybe now. And
Jets
what,
total?
20 years?
Wow.
So it's a pretty secure job.
What were you doing on that jet?
I was in charge of the center body, the wing body,
Okay.
pretty much everything going into that and the close up of it, because the way they build it is pretty wild over there.
How do they build it?
The center section is built like it's about to fly into the sky. So it's just standing up the whole time, and they move it from station to station. And so you build it where it's just a frame in front of you, and they put in all their tubing, their wires, whatever components are in the side of the skin. And then you put the skins on so they can put the fuel in the wings and stuff. And then they'll test them afterwards.
What is the skin made of?
Theirs is composite, all composite. Yeah. That jet's extremely composite built, and pretty much held together with glue and screws. So, but no, it's a pretty fabulous process they have over there. It was a great opportunity.
Are you still working for them?
No, I left them. I got another opportunity for a place in Fort Worth. It's called Ferris Manufacturing, and we make specialty bandages and stuff. So now I run the whole production facility there. Wow. And it's more pay and less stress. There's a lot of stress over at Lockheed because they're trying to always move them.
I bet, yeah.
But no.
So you had a pretty decent transition, right? You got out after getting kind of screwed.
Yeah, and that's funny. I mean, I don't even say that because I was like, well.
I mean, you got you did get screwed by the Marine Corps, but you got real lucky in the shop that you were in.
Yeah, my squadron was fabulous. I mean, I had such good officers and everything above me. I never even looked at anything as a negative really from it.
That's good.
Because I had such great support from them when I did separate and all that stuff. I could still, maintain contact with every one of them. So it's a really good opportunity.
Do you hear that often?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No.
Usually at least for me, I was pretty isolated from the civilian world.
Oh, I was extremely isolated when I came down here.
Yeah.
It was just a shock to me. The senses, it was just like, woo.
When did you start to notice that you were struggling?
I knew some stuff was going on when I was on that contract.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you start having more interactions civilian wise, just a little bit from there because it's an all military town and all that. But if you ever go anywhere and you're talking and there's people are like eye glancing at you or stuff and you're feeling awkward in situations, you're like, oh, okay.
Are you still using fucks like commas? Or like
and that's the one good thing is Lockheed was like 40%. Veterans.
Okay, so
yeah, you're like, oh fuck, and they're like, hey, we're in a meeting. Let's tone down the commas there, but
we're at a quinceañera right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you might want to
tone it down.
There's 5-year-olds, and there's a priest right there. So.
Yeah,
but yeah, and here where I'm at Ferris is they got your back, and it's a real family-oriented organization. It's great. It's a real small company, but they take care of you and everything like that, and it's awesome. And everyone there is very level-headed and respectful and things like that. But if you drop an F-bomb or something like that, no one cares. I mean, really, you just mind your P's and Q's most of the time. You're fine. If it's warranted, it's warranted for them. Really, I got lucky with that for sure, but. Moving down here and then dealing with, I don't know, I never had any exposure to the populace of not wanting or caring about the military or anything like that. And then it was interesting coming in Lockheed because they got a lot of people that work there that they don't even appreciate or support the program they're working on.
Really
weird. Yeah.
That is weird.
It's
why are they there?
Funny. I don't know.
Just to make money, I guess.
Yeah. And it had to be. I mean, people don't support the military work there and things like that. You're like, you do realize you're making a death machine, right?
Yeah, that seems like a conflict of interest
Oh,
having someone there
exactly.
that
And
might sabotage the project.
it was actually one of those things where you think about that all the time because being in charge of them and stuff like that, and you're like, this is really weird. Why are you here? Or, and, I don't know if upper management or executives or any of that even knew the feelings of some of these people, and they don't care as long as they're showing up and working, right?
Recruitment's just putting butts in seats.
That's it. Yeah. I was super happy to be one of those butts though at one point there, because that was just a phenomenal raise for me and, the opportunity, because it was just one of those companies that was shrouded in gold, it had the gold star above it if you could get on there.
Yeah.
Coming out of the defense agency, Yeah, it was a good opportunity though, and I really appreciate them for that. I don't regret working there at all, for sure. But building up stress as talking about PTSD and things like that, and that's when I knew I had it, was when I was there.
What were you seeing?
Oh, it was just steering clear of certain situations, and
So avoidance.
yeah, avoidance. That was the first time I worked anywhere that had a populace like that, especially, and it made you want to steer clear of them, and things like that. And I never was going out. I've never been a person to go out. Hey, let's go to a club, or that ain't never been me. But then you notice when someone asks you to go somewhere and you're coming up with these excuses, and you're like, oh, well, I got something going on. I ain't got nothing going on, whatever, and not.
Did you have any social circle?
I had a very small group with people over there that had made some really good close group friends.
Okay.
We used to take a motorcycle trip every year, go to Tennessee and ride Tail of the Dragon, have a blast for about a week. But that was our only real.
Yeah, that's only once
group.
a year to quite fill the void.
Do things like that. But, I feel bad like after getting diagnosed with it and figuring out that I was withdrawing from people. I feel bad, for the wife and the kid. You're like, man, they're missing out on social opportunities, things because of me.
Was it just the avoidance that you were noticing, or what?
No, straight up anxiety. It was weird, because I can't say that, I was like a ground pounder or anybody out there experiencing like shit hitting the fan like that. I got exposed to, some rocket attacks and some things like that, and worry about suicide bombers on our base that get in and stuff like that. And we, but for some reason, the training and the anxiety was there for like you seeing a random item in a spot where it shouldn't be, and you're avoiding the hell out of it, because you're worried about it. And in today's time, it might even be worth a while just with the craziness going on. But
yeah,
driving down the road, seeing something, getting over and staying away from it, things like
weird
that.
how it manifests sometimes.
It does.
In ways that you don't expect and in times that you don't expect.
And the irritability with people, like, you're so used to this. This is something I would definitely say a lot of people with PTSD. That's just me personally speaking. I can't say it on their behalf, but for me, like, just because it was orders and go, right? You without reason or being, you always followed your orders. And when you're trying to convey that to people, like, hey, I need you to go do this job, and just getting the rebuttal and your anxiety will go through the roof because you're just sitting there and you feel like, you're a wound up spring and you just want to grab them. And you're like, yeah, I can't be that way, and in today's society or any time, you can't be that way. And it makes you even pull back even more. You're like just acknowledging things and going through motions in life, and getting stressed out and panicking over certain situations. And it doesn't even make sense, really. You're like, man, there's something going on,
Did you have any outlet, any physical outlet, any emotional outlet, social outlet?
I shut down, really. And, you're like, oh, I'm a man. And then it's funny because, everyone's got PTSD that, all walks of life, right? But you think, for me especially, it's like, oh, I'm responsible for how I present myself and all this. It'll be okay. I'll just pack it down. It's fine. motions and stressors. And you're like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. And then you find that time and you bring up any of it to a VA doctor or something. They're like, well, tell me about that. And you start opening up. And
what kind of coping mechanisms were you using?
I really didn't have any. I've never done any alcohol or anything like that. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That usually spirals worse.
There's 100 times I've said, just like, man, it's going to drive a guy drinking. And a lot of times I was like, I considered that as an option. I'm like, man, what if I did? What if it did help?
I
thought it would help.
It didn't help.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know it wouldn't help. But you think about things.
It's good that you didn't, though, because, I mean, a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And I got out.
And I get it, because I went through my entire Marine Corps career never taking a sip.
Really?
Yeah.
How the hell did you do that?
I don't know how I managed it. But the funny thing is you know how Marines are. Putting you up to anything and everything, right?
We had Wobble Wednesdays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
in the barracks.
But when we'd go on a det or something, we'd go out to the desert, go to Yuma, Arizona, or El Centro or 29 Palms to go train, and they were like, oh, Sam's the DD. And the funny thing is because of the group that I came through the Corps with, and a lot of them had stayed in, and some of them, I'd known for so many years, they never pressured that to me. They'd be sitting there, the new guy, they'd be sitting there pouring it down his throat, but they never, ever bothered me about it, because they were like, nah, he's crazy enough as he is.
We don't want to lose our designated driver.
Yeah, we don't want to lose that because we're all going to prison. Yeah. But yeah, they knew I did so much stupid stuff on motorcycles. And
was it a religious thing?
No, I'm not at all.
Really? So have you ever drank alcohol?
I took one sip at one of my best friend's weddings. I was his best man. I took a sip for his toast. That was it. That was wine. And that's literally it.
Why do you avoid it?
I do everything I do, all the things I like to do, in excess. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know I would be bad. Okay. I know I would be horrible. If I liked it, I know I would be horrible.
It's a great level of situational awareness and self-awareness to acknowledge that.
It was, I know I would be bad if I liked it. It would be like every dime I had probably go to it.
Did anyone in your life that you saw growing up have a problem with it?
My parents both drank. Yeah. But I did see a level of control from my father, which was wild, because he was crazy drunk when I was a little bitty, and I hear the stories from my brothers and sister, that some of the crazy stuff going on. But I remember one day he was like, I'm done. And I never seen him take a drink again a day in his life. It was really weird.
You know what caused that?
I don't really, something was going on for him, mentally or physically or whatever. I don't know if it was employment related or something.
Sure.
But yeah, no, he just stopped out of nowhere. I know my mom, she continued to trying to kind of keep that away from him and things like that. It was kind of wild.
Well, once he stopped, it probably got harder for her to stop. She had to deal with his ass.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. And all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my brothers and sister, we were a wild bunch growing up.
6 kids? You have 5 siblings, right? So 6 total?
Yeah, I have 4 brothers and sister, yeah.
Okay, so 5 total kids.
Yeah, 5 total siblings. Yeah. Well, 6. I was number 6. I was
so
number
6 total. Yeah. Yeah, that's Kate.
And my mom, she helped raise my brother's kids and stuff like that. Of course, grandma and things like that, but she was really involved with them.
You'd have to have help with 6. There's no way.
And that's the funny thing is my mom, she never had a job in her life besides child raiser and never had a driver's license.
Really?
Nothing. Yeah, really.
Wow.
She was the homemaker. And it's interesting. My parents got married in 55 I came late. Okay. I was late. I have brothers with kids older than me.
Wow.
So I have nephews and nieces that are older than me.
Yeah.
It's an interesting.
I was a oops baby too. I think my
I had to be when you think about it. It's like there's no way there's a 10-year separation.
I said the same. She's like, no, I was so grateful to have you. I'm like,
that's exactly what my mom and dad said. You're like, there's no way.
No woman at 37 who's been 13 years since her last one's just excited to go for round 2.
Yeah.
I appreciate your efforts though to make me feel wanted.
Yeah.
But so you don't have any coping mechanisms. You're just
not as in a chemical way or anything like that. The only thing I had really was my motorcycles and things like that.
So that was your outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it got me.
Were you like just pushing the limits of speed?
Yeah, I mean track days and racing and things like that.
Were you a responsible motorcycle rider?
I can't say in the beginning I was. I would say I am now. Just because it hurts more now. But yeah, my one oops in the, I guess you say in the policing world was definitely on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Doing 183 and a 35.
Ooh.
And then getting a roadblock.
35.
Yeah. I had a roadblock for that one. That was a do not pass go moment.
Yeah, I bet.
That was my one oops. And that was actually a big part. And that was while I was in, And that was in 06, 05, 06 that time frame. And, going to jail and then coming back and missing movement.
They don't just write you a ticket for that.
No. Yeah. They wrote, several felonies on there, like
wow,
fleeing and eluding. The funny thing is I wasn't running from a cop. They were just trying to catch up.
I didn't see you back then.
I told them straight up. I was like, sorry.
Yeah.
Your Crown Vic didn't muster.
Yeah.
But yeah, turns out roadblocks work and did that. But luckily, like I said, I've had a lot of luck in my life. I had a really good judge that understood that I was going to get my ass hammered by the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, have a nice day. I mean, 3 felonies and
he probably knew the commander.
Yeah, he was.
He's dealt with you guys before. He knew your commander.
He literally said, "Pay your paperwork fine, $300 something," because he knew I lost my license for 2 years.
Really?
And yeah, it was. Yeah, North Carolina took it serious.
I bet. That's pretty fast.
Yeah,
I did 167 on mine in Southern California. And then we went down into Palm Springs and we were doing like wheelies at the stoplights and shit. And we were cruising back up the mountain to 29 Palms. And I was on a 2-lane highway and I was doing what's called a Skechers where you stand next to the bike.
Yeah.
And I'm doing like 80 down the road.
Yeah, we did all that stuff.
It's so dumb. But I'm on the side of the bike toward traffic.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm like dragging my feet going down the road and I'm looking as these cars are just going beside me. And like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I just got home from Fallujah.
Yeah.
And I am going to kill myself.
You were looking for that outlet.
Yeah. On this 2-lane road being an absolute idiot. And like, just knowing what I had put my family through and like my mother through and
all the worries in the world.
Yeah. And I finally get back. She's going to get a call. And it happened. We had a guy in our unit die on a motorcycle the week we got home. And another one drink himself to death in his room the week we got home. And I was like, I can't do this.
Can't be that guy.
I took it straight back into 29 Palms. I put it in a rental storage thing I had, and I never rode it again.
Oh,
and it kind of
that took a big.
It did.
That was a aha moment.
Like I really had that moment where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is so dumb. Because at 167, like I didn't have control over that bike. It was just going
doing
straight.
What it's doing.
Yeah,
at that point,
like you can't turn it. You can't do much. And
Pebble would have been a bad day.
My luck, the desert tortoise would have walked.
Exactly. Yeah, the protected.
Turtle. Right.
29.
And yeah, that was kind of the end of my motorcycle time.
Yeah,
it was fun, but
at that time it's funny because we had people. We do, we go out there for training. We'd had people put their crotch rockets in quad cons and stuff, and they're shipping them out there.
Nice.
From North Carolina.
Nice.
But
so what was the process? Like you started to notice that you were struggling.
So
what took
noticed
you
I was
to
having
the
these anxieties, having these pullbacks, and then having these like almost emotional outbursts. You're like something's wrong.
Yeah.
And brought it up to them. And luckily I had some VA doctors that were paying attention, and they were like, okay, let's have a talk about that. And then they got one of their psychs over from mental health and stuff, and, dodge them like the plague, being, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. Tell yourself that. But then finally sit down with one and talk to them, be like, so what's going on? What's some of the things you ever were exposed to? You tell them, about bodies and stupidity, and then, exposure to direct fire and all that, missiles and just the daily Marine Corps life, really,
Mm-hmm.
being a stressful environment. And they're like, okay, well, you have a momentous amount of things that could be triggering and things like that. And they're like, start going over your social problems. They're like, so tell me why you avoid this, and what's your thought process going into it, and things like that. And you're like, oh, there could be anything in that debris or whatever, and people.
So were you just feeling overwhelmingly vulnerable all of the time?
Yeah. You feel like the exposed nerve whenever you go anywhere, and you feel like relating to the normal civilian was, you didn't want them to think you were the strange guy or whatever, they're like, oh, you're crazy or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, that was just day-to-day life. But, and you come to find out, you can talk to a lot of people, but the doctors was like, you got some anxiety problems and, social issues, putting up walls and things like that. And you're like, well, yeah, I could say that. You have those moments where you tell yourself, you're like, well, that's true.
Sure.
I am avoiding people. I am avoiding groups. I am avoiding, and having problems with certain situations when I get in them. And then they're like, okay, well, you're going to have to come to a definite talk with a psychiatrist. And I did one. All I had to do was one of those.
What was that conversation like?
He was asking, basically, no kidding, the whole lie down on the couch and let's have a chat. And, it was top to bottom. They ask you a lot of just normal personal things, and like, hey, how do you go about doing this during your day? If you need to go get something from the store, how do you go about it? And then you come to realize that you're trying to bypass those events in life. But like, well, if it's something like that, I'll have my wife pick it up, or showing that you're avoiding social interactions with people and anything like that. And what makes you nervous? Why do crowds make you nervous? It's like, well, the vulnerability of not having an exit or things like that, the pressure, and it just makes you sweat when you're in the group or whatever. And they're like, okay, they're going through that, and they're asking, and they asked some of the things you've seen or heard, or they're like, okay, were you ever in an area where, there was explosions? Like, yes, been there. Have you ever seen dead bodies? Yes, been there, all that, help move them, things like that. And anything you see, they're like, okay, you've been exposed enough things that we surely think that there's traumatic relationships with how you're acting and how you process the things that you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, well, I could see that, and they were like, okay, we're going to try some therapies and some anger management, things like that.
What did they have you try? What were the...
Oh, a lot of the things they have you try. They go through the gambit, like, we're going to go through some breathing exercises. We're going to go through, writing things down in a diary and
things like, what would they have you write?
Anytime you had an anxiety experience,
anytime that you felt anxiety, you were supposed to...
Yeah, they're like, so if you go into a thing and it's not something you would think is make you anxious, if you have a meeting or there's a group of people and you got to walk past them or anything like that, and anytime you second guess anything that makes you change your state of mind, they wanted you to write it down just so they could review it. And
I would almost think that'd make me more hyper focused on my anxiety.
It does, right? But they want you to know, be self-aware of it.
Okay.
So being self-aware of it's a big deal. That way you can at least explain it to them.
Sure.
So, and then you start noticing you're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
right? And you're like, oh my goodness.
Well, sure, you're thinking about it all the time.
But they know it's going to exacerbate the problem.
Okay.
They know it is. But,
Yeah.
they don't want to push you over the edge with it. But they're like, anytime you're having this, please just put a tick mark in your book, or, hey, I was paying attention a little bit more than I probably should have, around people, or,
Sometimes I almost think everyone else isn't anxious in the crowd because they're too naive to know that
exactly.
they should be.
But see, that's part of it.
I know how vulnerable I am right now because there's a whole lot of stimulation going
where
on.
Are the exits to this place?
I can't focus on 1,000 people.
Exactly.
In a 3D environment, in a giant square, or a speech that the president's giving. And,
right? I mean, you're like, come on.
Yeah.
You're like, I would have
shots fired.
Thought about that prior to, but
yeah.
And, and that was a big part of it. It's like whenever I'm going to go do something, is planning on not the event or having fun, but what are my options?
Yeah.
And when you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm avoiding a lot of fun that I could be having. I could just focus on this concert. But no, you get there, you're like, oh, how did I get in here? How tall is the gate? Can I really climb that, get out if we had to, if something happened? And you notice that you're doing that all the time. And then they're like, you're 100% PTSD. They're like, you definitely have it. So they're like, along with, your bad knees, you have PTSD. And I was like, wow. I remember being at an appointment. This is,
did you not think that you had it? Did you not?
At first, no. Yeah. No, I was like, oh, I'm just being a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think a lot of that is a definite.
I think a lot of us tell ourselves that.
You're like, I just need to man up. I'm letting myself down. I just need to shut up and focus.
At least for me, it didn't manifest all at the same time.
Oh, no.
Like different things came up at different times.
Absolutely. It progresses.
I had reactions to things that I didn't expect or never saw coming, and then felt embarrassed for it.
I remember us having, I was still in, and I knew I had a problem with a couple things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I need to make sure I pay attention a little bit to myself. And it was one of those things where you just brush it off. But then you think back on it, you're like, wow, it was definitely manifesting then. Like, I remember we were doing something and someone had a ladder or something that fell. And I remember blinking, and there was a couple of us that were like in a defensive area preparing ourselves immediately. And you're like, why did we do that? It's like it's an immediate reversion to tactic of defense.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow. But
I think my definition of fun changed a lot too. Like
100%.
I used to go to the club and, there'd be a crowd and I wouldn't care. I'd just be looking for the best looking chick in the bunch. And if she's by herself or are we
game on?
What are we drinking right now? What's on the music? Like I didn't care about all that. And then all of that, I just wasn't interested. I had like a deadness toward it.
Yep.
And
you're numb.
If I was going to have or pick a great night, it would be 4 of my buddies around a fire sipping whiskey,
talking about events in the past.
Those were the best nights. And I remember my parents talk about it up to even recent years. When I first got out, it was a traumatic process getting out, because it was like I went specifically from a patrol in southern Fallujah. Within 36 hours, I was home in 29 Palms. And within 2 weeks, I was on my parents' front porch, home out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And there was nothing but like taps and tamps of signing out and all that shit
how simple
done
that
for
is.
those 2 weeks. And I mean, it was wild. It was very surreal to go from one to the other so quickly.
The extremities of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's part of it, I think, is you understand about, you just think, I think your mind stays in it. You're overseas contributing to a combat event or a war, and utmost seriousness, you're on edge 24/7. And the fact that you could be back home on your front porch, drinking sweet tea,
It's like being on another planet.
It is. It's like, how does that coexist?
Like a time travel or a Star Trek portal, or I mean, that's what it felt like.
Yep.
And yeah, I didn't want anything to do with most people. I didn't know how to manage. And tried to reach out to some of my buddies and like, oh, what do you like to do? I was like, I don't know. I don't have a hobby. I don't know. I didn't get hobbies in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. And it's funny because you start falling back on trying to recreate day-to-day life that you had, but there's nothing to do it with or no one to do it with.
There's too many options too.
Yeah.
I felt very overwhelmed with, well, what do you want to do with your life now? What the fuck do I know? Like, I just got done doing that 2 weeks ago.
And it's funny when you say that, it's like, even when I talk to people now, it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do when I grow up. Because you don't think that.
I'm 40. I just started a whole new career.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was funny. I was talking with my son and he asked me, he's like, how many jobs have you had? And I started counting. I've had like 15 jobs since I was in high school.
Yeah.
And that just blew his mind. But it's been a great journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of what I think it's about. You know, some people find the one thing they want to do forever, and great and good for them.
Get lucky. Some of them.
I haven't found that.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoy the process of learning something, you know, and what that brings. And solving it and figuring it out and then moving on to the next one.
Yeah, that's a definitely. I think that's the like reason why I left like Lockheed. I was like, okay, I got this down. It's time to go do something.
Yeah,
do something else. And but
so after the diagnosis, they had you start writing things. What other kind of coping mechanisms did they present to you?
Really, they didn't give you any coping mechanisms per se.
Okay.
They were, now, like if you were having a panic attack or something, they were like, oh, there's these breathing techniques or something to calm yourself down.
Okay.
And it was basically, if something's causing an issue, make sure you separate yourself from that. I'm like, that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm already doing that. That's why I separate myself from everyone. That. So what was their fix? What
the VA doesn't. I mean, I think they're getting better.
They only got one way to go.
Yeah, I can bounce off the bottom of that floor.
Yeah,
but I can say honestly that I've had good experiences with the Dallas and the Fort Worth VAs.
Okay,
I've had pretty good experiences with them, and they care. I mean, I've heard the horror stories. Everyone has about some of the VAs where people die in the waiting room. It's just like, come on. And I think it's just luck of the draw on that. But, they put me in touch with a mental provider that I had to have every 2 weeks. I had to talk with her and tell me what's going on, what's suffering. I mean, to the point of, asking about your sex life, all that stuff.
Did that help at all?
It did a little bit. I can say that counseling, I mean, it has its place for sure. And it's not going to help you in coping with a certain situation. It might make you feel better about the end item of it, the after action, basically. But I was and I remember being at the doctor, and one of the ladies there was like, my son just got a service dog and has made a night and day improvement with him. She was like, here's a list of them. She goes, I've made this just so, because they don't push that for anything over there. I think they're starting a program up.
Really?
Yeah, real soon. I think it's all in the very beginning planning stages of it. But, she was a really nice lady, and she cared. She was just one of the receptionists though. And she gave me that, and it was like a list of like 10 different places. She goes, these are the places that my son went, was inquiring through, and they all provide help for veterans. And I'm like, okay. And I was avoiding like veteran association things like the plague.
I wanted nothing to do for a long time.
I'm like, I don't want to sit around a campfire and be like, oh, woe is me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But I finally accepted. I was like, you know what? I need to live a better life for me and my family, and let me look into some of this.
Did they try to push meds at you?
Oh yeah.
That's usually what I hear is that, and that's what
they have no problem doing that. I mean, I could call them right here in front of you and be like, hey, I'm doing this. They're like, here you go. Here's 2 new prescriptions. Mm-hmm. They'll be in the mail. They'll be there Monday.
Why do you think they're so easily giving that without other solutions.
To be honestly, they're completely overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And I think it's just one of the ways if they can dole somebody out a little bit and take a little bit of the edge off with some of these medications, they're like, well, we had a little bit of a success. I guess they chunk it up as a win.
Yeah.
I think their resources are limited, but they have that as a go-to.
There's definitely a lot of red tape.
It is.
And so it's like, this is your problem. Well, these are the options that I'm permitted to do.
Exactly.
And if you want this other one, then you have to jump through another hoop and get approval by somebody else.
That hoop will create 4 more.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's been a number of times like, well, I know what you should and what we'll likely end up doing, but the insurance requires us to go through all these steps first. So we got to try this medication, which doesn't usually work, but we're going to do it first. And then when that one fails, we'll move on to this one that sometimes might help, but usually often doesn't work. But the insurance requires us to go through because the one that works the most is the most expensive. And, and so that's, you're right though. I'm sure they're overwhelmed.
I mean, it's like my doctor, like my primary care provider I have over there. She's a great lady.
Yeah.
Great lady. Cares, listens when you're there, but she's also trying to kick you out the door. I mean, she's like, I got 90 other people I got to see in the next 2 days. Yeah. It's like, how can that be a productive,
I don't know if I really even see my primary care provider. Most of the time,
you'll see their nurse.
At least here in Austin, it's an intern. It's an intern that asks me questions and writes down my answers and then goes to speak with the primary who they're working under and gives them their recommendation. And sometimes they'll come in and just confirm whatever the intern told me, and then they leave.
Yeah, they want to make sure that okay, that was correct.
Yeah, they're almost just a supervisor for the VA running interns through the clinic.
Yes,
because those are the people that I actually speak to are the interns.
Yeah, you see that. I mean, it's sad, really. I mean, I feel for them because their caseload is unbelievable,
No doubt.
It was funny. But one of my primary care providers that I had when I first got down here was one of the flight surgeons that we had in Afghanistan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. I remember you.
Yeah, that's funny.
So it's a small world sometimes, but.
Did you try the medications at all?
I did. And I mean, it help you? I'm still on some.
Yeah.
I'm on an anxiety medication and stuff right now, but it takes a little bit of an edge off. But I had so much anxiety from work when I was at Lockheed. I started 2 new medications on top of all that. And that's when I knew I was like, I have to do something.
How did you feel on the medication?
I felt foggy.
Really?
Yeah.
Tired? Just
I mean, definitely tired, but feel like you're disconnected from your own body. I mean, it's like you're controlling your body from a joystick. It's like, this is not me. You're not reacting the way I would really react to things like this. And that it's not really, it's just masking things. That's all it is it puts up a show, really.
It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah. Oh, it is, for sure. It's just something to hold back the floodwaters while it's building up behind it.
Do you think that has anything to do with the suicide rate?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's very, people get overwhelmed with that. And the problem is when your body overcomes that medication and then you get to a point.
Tolerance?
Yeah, build a tolerance for it or something, or you're just building up inside you. And I think a lot of people get to that point and then that's just the end for them because they can't cope with it. And it's a bad deal. I think every one of our veterans deserves the absolute best, and, know that other people are out there they could talk to. It's sad to see that the amount of people that,
Did you ever have your testosterone levels checked?
Yes.
Where were you at?
I'm low.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is a thing that my doctors have told me that everybody will have that. That's definitely dealing with it because it's one of the big factors.
Did you get on TRT?
No, I'm not yet. I'm actually working on myself privately to get that done.
To get onto TRT or to manage your test level on your own?
Yeah, to do what I can to help it, but also looking into therapies on, and the civilian side, because I know a lot of people that have taken that on and did it themselves out of pocket, and they're like, life is great again. And
yeah, I spent a little time working for an HRT company.
Oh, okay.
And that was my exposure to that world. And as I was learning, long-term exposure to cortisol, which is stress, right, will kill your testosterone levels.
Yeah, just straight
opioids for our Purple Heart guys will drop your T levels into the 100.
Yeah.
And there's all of these factors, diet, sleep, all these things will affect it.
Yeah.
But the big thing that really caught my eye was that the symptoms of low testosterone and PTSD are almost identical.
Yep, you can put the sheets side by side.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And so when I got home and I went to the doctor and I told him like these are all the things I'm having, I'd really like my test levels checked. And I spoke with the VA about it. They told me no, they wouldn't even test my T levels. And I most likely have PTSD because I've just got back from overseas. And I could have all the medications that I wanted,
because
right?
that's all they're limited to do.
And not testosterone medication, obviously, but some type of psych med.
Yep.
And it really got me thinking. I was like, I may have PTSD, but if I also have low testosterone, then it doesn't matter how much psych med you throw at me. Correct. You're not correcting the physiological deficit of low testosterone in my body. Yep. So you can't isolate the psychological problem that I'm having. Exactly. You can throw all the psych meds you want at me until you get my test levels up. We don't know which one is doing it.
Yeah.
And that sent me down that rabbit hole. And when I got on testosterone, my life changed as well. From just the sheer motivation to like working out feels good.
Yeah.
Like I have the extra energy and the desire to expel it in a way that makes me feel good and makes me feel strong. And it's great. And I miss being 18 when I just produced it naturally.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's not free, right?
Yeah.
It will cause you to be sterile. Your nuts are going to shrink up, right? You're going to look like you got baby nuts. And and so it's not free. I had to get on HCG to get my wife pregnant. Yeah. And it worked. But I do feel like I'm kind of juggling one problem to the other, staying on the medication. And I wish that I could figure out a natural way to do it. And I don't know if there is.
There's things that, promote.
That claim.
Because I've been digging into that because unfortunately I've found out during all the testing and stuff with the VA, and because I've been trying to figure out a whole bunch of stuff going on,
Sure.
And come to find out, I'm having problems with gluten.
Oh yeah, me too.
So I'm like, oh, well, that explains a lot.
I don't eat bread at all.
Yeah, I got to completely stop now.
Yeah, me too.
Right, so that's a big deal because your body isn't processing stuff, so it isn't pulling in the minerals and the vitamins that it needs. So that might be a causal factor of the testosterone being down.
It's also tough too because I used to make fun of people that were gluten.
Yeah.
Fucking hippies. Like,
yeah, exactly. Right. Now I got to go chew on a plant.
Weak jeans. Like, and now like bread just wrecks me. Yeah. And I ended up spending 3 days in the hospital with an ulcer. And I had no idea why. And I was in the Temple VA. And I told them, I was like, man, every time I eat, I feel like hammered dog shit. And I feel like I need a food allergy test. And they just blew me off. Like, nah, it ain't food. It's not food related. Like, it's just, it's a new chronic disease that you have. And this is the medication you're going to take forever. I'm like, well, how did I get this? Oh, we don't know. Like, well, what's triggering it? Now, we don't know. But these are the medications and you're going to take them forever. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. And so I threw them in my drawer and I went and did my own allergy testing. And I've managed this on my own since through diet. And it was eliminating bread. Yeah. I mostly eat meat and fruit. Yep. And that's fine. Sometimes a vegetable, but very rarely do I do the vegetables. It's mostly meat and fruit. And
that's where I'm heading right now.
It's changed my life.
I'm literally, I mean, very brand new into it because I had a whole bunch of problems. I was having problems with my stomach and all that, and I'm like bleeding, and and I'm like, man, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm worried. Do I got cancer? Do I got something?
Me too.
And they keep testing all this stuff. They're like, your numbers are fine. Your numbers are fine. Your numbers are fine. And I'm like, And then they finally were like, I went to the emergency room because I missed a week of work. I'm sitting there throwing up and shitting myself. I'm like, what's going on? I don't feel bad. I'm just having problems with my stomach.
Yeah.
And I haven't eaten anything. I haven't been poisoned. What's going on? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, well, maybe we'll let you go to the gastro guy. And, they went top and bottom. I can check me, and they're like, oh yeah, you're low Marsh level 4A of celiac. And I'm like, oh, great. That explains a little bit. And they're like, but you also have GERD. You also have problems with your intestines and stuff. I'm like, well, here we go. And they're like, but that's all contributed because of the food. They're like, so all gluten needs to go bye-bye.
Wow.
I'm like, okay.
At least they gave you an answer.
Yeah.
Like that's all I got was drugs.
Yeah, like I said, I've been lucky with
prednisone. I was on prednisone for a long time, which steroids like that, they're not good long term. I could hear pictures of my face just swelled up.
Oh yeah, you just gained weight
full of water
everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And I'd gained weight because of all this stuff separating. I'm like trying to figure out why. I'm like, I am not eating more. I'm not doing less, but I feel like shit.
Yeah. Well, the low T will do it.
Yep.
The stomach issues for sure will do it. Diet for absolutely, man. And so getting that stuff lined up made a huge. I'm almost back to the weight that I was as a Marine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I need to work out more. I threw my back out like 2 weeks ago, and it's just been a mess.
And that's the thing is like now, I'm at the spot, and come to find out all this stuff. The reason why I'm feeling like shit because of the gluten and all that stuff. And I'm like, damn, if I can get this all sorted out and start working out again, really have some energy.
Yeah.
But the low T, I know I have low T. They did test that.
Okay.
Because I've been.
What number did you have? Do you remember?
109.
Oh, wow. Shit.
Something like that.
That's very low. Yeah. I think I was 350 and my 74-year-old dad was 351.
Yeah.
He beat me by 1 point.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
So, my stuff, and it's so funny. They got that little scale though, that VA for all doctors.
Yeah.
Like in between these numbers, but I'm literally the very minimum. It's like on the line.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's good though, because 250 is typically the low end that insurance will cover. So you've got to be below 250, like 250 to 900, I believe, is the normal range, which is horseshit, subjective nonsense. But it gets the insurance companies out of paying for this.
Yeah,
because most men over 30, 35 are going to have low testosterone unless they're not eating the sad American diet. And so at least they should at least be covering the therapy.
Well, we're
at 109.
Like I'm at the point right now of working with them, and
nice.
I'm trying to do everything through community care through the VA, so I don't have to do the VA necessarily. I can go to my own doctor and do it. So that's one of the things I've been doing for a lot of stuff, like my allergies. And it's funny because I never had allergies in my life, anything, and in the last 5-6 years. I'm allergic to everything. Apparently, they test me and everything on the list I'm allergic to. I'm like, man, but again, it goes to the diet, goes to all that stuff. They said that it can trigger everything.
I think our diet is terrible in this country. Oh. And it really hit me. I was in Baghdad, and all I can eat's the chow hall. Right, we're living off of tiger blood rippets and
good old the energy drink of war.
Otis Spunkmeyer muffin.
Yeah, tearing things up.
Yeah, right. Just running missions and eating bullshit. And man, it just wrecked me. Totally wrecked me. And I didn't know. I'd never had a food issue before. Like,
well, I mean, then too, when you're
ate whatever,
you could eat
any.
I mean, straight up a 5-pound bag of sugar and run it off, and
MRE for breakfast, lunch with a local for lunch. And, it was a bit of a toss up who would get diarrhea on the team every mission, but, I usually was okay. But no, man, I hit like 30, 34, and being over there, whatever was in the food over there, they did catch an Iraqi shitting in our water.
That's always good.
And so maybe that had an issue. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so you tried the medications.
Yeah.
Right. And did you just not feel like it was doing enough?
I mean, like I was saying, it feels like you just disconnect from your own body.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, cool. I'm not feeling so down and out, but I feel like I'm not even in control.
You feel nothing.
Yeah. You're just numb. And, and like I said, that great lady over at the VA, I haven't even seen her again since, but she gave me that and it had Canines for Warriors on it.
Okay.
And I looked up a couple of the websites that they had, and I'm sure a lot of those organizations are amazing. Any of them that are trying to help us veterans, I'm all for it. And I came across Canines for Warriors, and I pulled up their site, and it was talking about Point Verde, Florida, where they do it, and it showed their little things and how everyone's separated. I thought that was pretty neat.
What does that mean?
Like, so they if you go there to get be paired with a dog, you have your own like apartment room, like everything's separate, so you don't have to be all bunched up with a group. And you're like, oh hey,
no squad bay.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. This is making PTSD worse because I'm with a whole bunch of strangers. But and it's not that way. They get it. The founder's son was, a veteran. So she just took it to heart and started trying to help people. And then it's gotten huge since Canines for Warriors. And they opened up at the campus here in Texas, in San Antonio, it's amazing.
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah. That's where I went.
Oh, okay.
I was the very first class there.
Wow.
So
what do you mean class? How long are you there for? What is
so it's about it's a little over 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, you go down there. So the service animals are trained. They're ready to go when you get there. They already know all their commands and all their skills. You go there to learn how to control the animal, to control him.
What was that training like?
It was interesting.
Did you have to stay there for 3 weeks?
Yes, you're completely cut off. You don't take family with you. It's you and your battle buddy, which I think is definitely the way to go because it puts you into an uneasy mindset really sometimes without your support system, right? But it makes you maximum into your learning, right? You're paying attention to what they're trying to tell you.
What did you learn?
You just learn to trust him, trust your battle buddy. And he's always there for you, right? All you're doing there is learning commands and learning a support system that they're in place through them. They're amazing group. They'll take a call at any time if you needed to talk to somebody, whatever. But having him with you, it just gives you a kind of like a security blanket. Really, about the only way I can explain it. Because having him, it makes you, yes, you got to go out and walk him. Yes, you got to go do something. Yes, you got to
interact.
Give you
some purpose, yeah.
So it gives you something to do because it's a responsibility. He needs to go out, not like he's doing anything right now, but he's enjoying life. But because that's what his job is. So you feel kind of responsible to, hey, I need to go take him out, let him interact, let him do his deal.
What are the capabilities of these dogs?
So the capability of the dog is really dependent on the dog, really. I know him. He reads me really well. I remember when I was working at Lockheed and I just got him. And I took him back and if he sees that I'm getting anxious or anything, he'll come over and paw me. He'll be like, hey, let's go for a walk. I mean, he literally is like, come on. And he'll grab me and we'll go take a walk. And, he'll get right on me and like want to get love, just, hey.
How do you think he senses that?
I think, I know they can smell, like you put off a pheromone or whatever when you're, getting anxious.
Mad.
Or get that too. And, he can obviously tell by physical, see you're getting rowdy.
You ever try to trick him?
Huh?
You ever try to trick him because you don't want to walk?
No, not really. No, I've never done that. But
I'm fine.
I've said that to him. I'm like, oh no, we're good. I know I'm getting testy, but we're good.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we need to go do something. But no, I mean, they don't train them to, do a backflip or nothing to say, hey, he's having a problem. We got to go.
Not circus dogs.
I mean, that's their companion, trained to be completely comfortable in any environment. They train them around loud noises, and they, Canines for Warriors is really great about how they train them is when you apply and they have your packet, they're like, what would you like to be able to do? Not necessarily what you like doing right now. Obviously you're a hermit now, but, so are you, you want to go to concerts? Do you like going out to wherever, social events, things like that. And, you tell them like, hey, what's your interest? Do you like to go for walks, runs, things like that, the beach, whatever your things is. And they build a case around you and they try to find an animal to best pair you with that's going to excel in those environments.
Nice.
Yeah. They do a really good job. I mean, they do it even up to the day before you get paired with the dog. I remember doing that with them because you get your dog, I think day 2 is dog day. It's what they call it, dog day.
Okay.
And it's exciting. I mean, because you're finally going to get to meet who's going to be with you.
Do you have any say? You ever have anyone like, I really don't like your dogs?
I never seen anybody say that.
Yeah.
I think it's funny to see some of the cute pairings that they got.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poodles that go through.
Really?
A lot of poodles go through. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And because they're extremely smart, extremely smart.
I just pictured them all being German Shepherds in my head for some reason.
I got, Belgian Malinois for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of dog is?
He's part Husky, part Lab, mostly Lab.
Yeah. You see the Lab.
You see a lot of Labs, go through. They're just great.
How old is he?
He is 3.
Wow.
Yeah. I got him. He was really young. So, but he did really well in the class. It's funny because, like I said, we were the first class in Texas, and he was at the Texas, the San Antonio animal shelter right there, and it's butted up next to Canines for Warriors. They're literally almost touching.
Nice.
So they have access to the animals when they get them over there. They can look and see any potential candidate
Someone
dogs.
had just dumped him.
Yeah, someone had dumped him wherever. I was told it was like in a traffic area in town or whatever, and then someone took him to the shelter or whatever, and he was a shelter dog, and then Canines went over there and found him and trained him up, and the rest
It's great
is
that
history.
they're saving dogs that way.
Oh yeah, that's their big deal. Is they always say it's saving 2 lives. It's saving the dog and the veteran.
Yeah,
And that's the whole thing they have there is the training process is really unique. Like that second day when you get your dog, the rest of the day is just loving on the dog.
Yeah.
And seeing how that interaction goes and stuff. I knew I was golden when I got him. They brought him out and they brought him to me, and he just jumped up on me. Necessarily, I don't think he was supposed to be jumping up on me at that moment, but he just jumped up on me and started licking my face. I was like, I think we're going to be okay right here with this guy. And, and then in San Antonio, it's a little different than they have it out in Florida. They have like the little huts, the little cabanas or whatever they call them over there. But here they have a couple houses, and they're kind of split. The houses are split up.
Okay.
And it was me and another Marine in our house. It was pretty good. We became really good friends.
Nice.
So,
do you have other dogs?
I do.
How did that interaction?
I was really worried about that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is they've picked up a lot from him, and he's picked up some bad habits from them, but it was to be expected. I just keep on top of his training and stuff when we go out, and he's been really good with it. But I got 3 chocolate labs at the house.
Like labs.
Oh yeah, I love them.
They're great dogs.
Yeah, I got 3 chocolate labs. They're all a year apart, age-wise.
Yeah.
So they're all siblings too. So what's wild, they have the same parents.
Oh wow.
Just different litters.
Okay.
But no.
What's the training that you do with him?
Tell
me about those 3 weeks, like training you.
Yeah.
I know that the animal's more just going to respond to his environment.
Correct. And how you're
a lot of it
conveying
is
all of it.
the owner, right? And so what kind of stuff did they teach you about dogs?
So they go over basic care of the dog. I mean, they really do, because a lot of people that haven't had an animal
Don't know. Yeah.
so they go over the care, what you need to do with them, and veterinary services. They go over that. You have a clinical person there that teaches you everything to keep an eye on with the animal, things like that. But you're training immediately when you get there. After day 2, you're training. You're doing classwork to go over the situations and the laws and everything around him, and having him, and then you're out in town the whole time. I mean, they throw you out there. They're like, all right, you're uncomfortable. Now you're going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to have a battle buddy. And it lets you know to lean on him.
Okay.
So that's one of the things about it.
What are some of the laws? What are the laws that you have to at least be conscious of the most?
Well, a lot of it is, like eating places and things like that. I mean, he can go anywhere.
Okay.
That's the law, is he can go anywhere with you. Taking him to concerts and stuff, and people are like, oh, what are you doing? Do
you get much pushback?
Amazingly, no. You get a lot of people get real touchy with him.
Really?
And they're not supposed to be touching him.
Oh, you mean like petting him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the thing, if you're in a real public place and you're just used to him being beside you, you turn around, there's a 5-year-old hanging on him. He's amazing with kids and stuff, but you're like, come on, buddy, you can't be on him. Or the 80-year-old old lady at Sam's Club, you turn around and she's on him, and her husband's about to beat her with a cane. She's like, you can't be on the dog. That literally happened when we were training.
Really?
Yeah, I think we were like 3rd or 4th day.
What's the reason that people shouldn't pet a service dog?
It's just because he's focusing on me, looking for his next command. He's always looking for his next command. Okay. And, if he's got his vest on, he is always looking for his next command. When his vest is off, he's just Jax. He's just the dog.
Does he know the difference?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
If I took his vest off, he'd be in your lap.
Take a shit on the carpet.
Yeah,
right
he'd be like right there. But no, he and funny thing is, knock on wood, see, we're talking about him. He's like, oh, let's go do something. Yeah. You going to say hey now? But no, he's been amazing. And if I take his vest off, he acts full. Okay. He's hilarious.
Okay.
He is hilarious, dog. And he's one of those, he'll start doing the old husky talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And but no, he knows. He's just wanting me to love on him right now. But
so I think I interrupted you.
Oh, no.
What were some of the laws, the more important laws?
Yeah, so them allowing him to, just be there.
Access.
Yeah, access stuff it's all huge. That's the big part of the class. I know.
It's like I'm getting bed sores laying down over here.
No.
Stretch it out.
That's what you want to do. So, access is a huge part of it.
Okay.
They go over all of this. I mean, they even bring a lawyer in from the main facility, and she goes over all the stuff. It's like, they cannot tell you this, they cannot tell you that, and you get people like, I need to see your paperwork for your dog. Mm-hmm. They can't ask for that.
Really?
Yeah, they can't ask for that.
Why? So how did you, as maybe a business owner or as a regular public
So that's
person,
your responsibility to really, hey, bud, it's your responsibility to really, to know the local ordinances and everything that.
Well, how do you decipher someone who has an emotional support lizard?
Oh yeah,
right. Like, where does the line end of the breed of dog? Like you can buy a service dog vest on Amazon,
and that's the problem,
right? And so how do they do their diligence if they can't ask?
Yeah. So so if he was to go into a place and he was acting up and he's barking or something, they can ask you to leave for sure. I mean, you're impeding daily operations, right?
They still have the right of refusal.
They can't refuse you just entrance. They could ask you politely to, vacate if he's causing a scene, or something. But if he's being on good behavior and he comes in, they can't. I mean, you might get somebody that says something,
sure,
right? And then you're like, and it's an educational moment then, right?
Have you ever had somebody?
I had a gentleman at Sam's Club one time in Fort Worth. he was like, "Oh, you can't bring him in here." I'm like, he's my service animal. Yes, I can. And he's like, "Oh no, you can't. Yeah, I need to see something to make sure he's a service animal." And it was just the point. I was like, I understand where you're coming from. Not really, but we're gonna say we are right now.
You can read.
I was like,
right?
you can go ahead. You can go ahead and just go ahead and get your boss. And as soon as he didn't even come back. His boss, as soon as he told him, the boss was like, "I corrected him, and you're fine." So it's just one of those things. And being you got to have the state of mind of you're going to run into those people.
Sure.
But I've only had a couple instances in a couple years.
How long have you had him?
I got him April 22nd. Well, I got him April 2nd. Yeah, where you going? You're just trying to see the plants, aren't you? But April 22nd is when we graduated, and that's when I got him 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 years.
Yeah, and it's been amazing.
So he was real young when you got
He
him.
was, yeah.
A year and a half?
Yeah, he's about a
maybe?
year and a half, yeah.
Wow.
What are you doing? October 4th is what I was told his birthday is, so before in October.
Lift the tail and count the rings, right?
Yeah. Yeah, fudge circle rings. But yeah, no, he's amazing. And it's definitely made a huge difference. It really has.
For your
I
life,
recommend
in your life.
Oh yeah. And it was funny because
Even though you had 3 other dogs.
Oh yeah. Just because I wasn't taking them everywhere,
Yeah.
And I love all animals. I love animals. And that I would say is one outlet I have is animals and stuff.
Okay.
It's always been one of those things. Love my dogs, take them out, let them run. But you're going to get exploratory, ain't you? Having him and having to go places, you feel like you got to keep him trained. You got to keep him sharp. It just makes a huge difference. It really does. And I don't feel now I'm like all about, let's go. Cause I got,
Did you feel anxiety taking in places when I first started?
It's definitely because you feel like you're away from the class and you got that support system there of, hey, he can be here. Hey, he can do that. Yeah.
I think I would almost draw more attention because I've got a dog with me sometimes, which gives me anxiety. Like I don't like everybody looking at me.
And that's the funny thing is I was the same way.
Yeah.
But now because of him, and I know because he's a pretty dog, and people, they're like, "Oh, hey," and they immediately come over.
Yeah.
It has made me interact with people that I have no idea who they are, complete total strangers. And I find myself, I've gotten so much easier with that.
That's good.
That it's made a world of difference in every way. I mean, I've taken him to any and everything. I mean, he's been to a Metallica concert. He's,
That's great.
everything.
I mean, I hadn't thought about the fact that it would kind of force you to socialize.
It does.
Because everybody loves a dog.
Yeah.
Right? If maybe you had a support alligator, then
I don't have anybody saying, hey,
nobody wants to
someone
talk
wants
to
pet him.
you. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, he's I call him, he's an attention whore. He loves everybody.
Yeah. Labs are that way.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I can get a pet over here. And it's funny because he's learned one of our places that we always go is Tractor Supply Company.
Mm.
We're always,
That's
we're
a good
getting
one.
a dog,
Home Depot is
food.
another good one.
Oh yeah, he loves Bass Pro Shop. Bass Pro Shop's his place.
Nice.
As long as if he could print me some $500 bills, we can go in there and buy stuff all the time. But no, Bass Pro is one of the places we trained. So he was used to it. Okay. So he loves it. And I've always loved it. So that's one of the places we always go whenever I want to go train him or just to go get out.
What did they teach you in that? Because I mean, you already had animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've already.
Yeah, I knew how to take care of them.
Right. You know how to take care of them. You probably know how to teach them basic commands. What did you really take away from that class in dealing with him, or maybe just helps you as a dog owner in general?
Pay attention to their cues.
All
if
dogs have cues.
They do. If they're going to have a bad day or not, like when you're taking them out. Like there's been days, I've had a day or two with him, not many, because he's really social. He just loves it. But, you find a day where he just won't listen. He's like, nah, it's cool. I ain't going to sit. I ain't going I ain't going to do this. I ain't going to. You're like, maybe the trip to Sam's Club can wait until tomorrow. We'll see how he's going to act, because I don't want to get him, frustrated or something or get kicked out.
Yeah.
But, and
what kind of screening do they do of the dogs? I mean, if
so their part of it is pretty.
They're getting shelter
thorough.
animals.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what
yeah.
the dog's been through.
Yeah, they get a lot of shelter animals, and they have some dogs that were raised for it, right? People that are sponsoring them that will, hey, we're raising these puppies for that.
So breeders on the side.
Yeah, and a lot of times they try to stay away from people that just breeding, but most of the time they try to get shelter dogs though. Give them second chance, second life, right?
Yeah.
And the trainers they have for the animals are just fantastic, because the dogs live with the trainers basically. They go to the kennels whenever they need to at night or whatever, but they just put so much effort into training them, and they like start them out on the clicker, training them, and then they get it to food, and then they go straight to food.
Really?
Food cues, yeah, for everything, and every one of them does the exact same commands. So you tell them to sit, with a hand gesture and everything. Everything has a gesture to it, so the dog sees that. I see that, I comply, I'm getting food, I'm getting a treat, right? So they do that, but the animals, it's all about the bond, and that's what they work with, is they want you to make a friend first, and then you're using your friend to explore the world, basically, and get back out there, push you back out in the world. So,
do you ever have people not connect with their animal?
Yes.
Really? So you could return the animal.
Well, so if you
Or the
if
3
you have
weeks,
a problem with it, yeah,
that's what the 3 weeks.
Yeah,
is for.
that's
Okay.
the deal. Is if there was an issue, they're going to address that right away. Like
3 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, so they're going to see things with how you act. Unfortunately, I know there was a person that was in one of our classes. It was just, I don't know. I guess there wasn't a connection. That he just wasn't. I think the dog was trying to do. No, I hope not. But hey, they were like, okay, we're going to reassess this.
Yeah. Will they find him another dog then?
Yeah, they would do that. Find him another dog, or or if it's in the case of the dog, because they want every dog to succeed, obviously too, and get them out there and get them doing their job. But yeah, all it is going over the laws and just getting you comfortable giving the commands to the dog. They have several commands, like you can use them as bracing, like for getting up and things like that, and having him watch your back, like when you're looking at like a store shelf or whatever, you can have him, he'll post right behind you, looking out, watching your back. So you feel comfortable to get out and do those things. And that's what his training is, to do that. And you can have him, like bracing for you to get up off the floor, or you kneel down to get something off the bottom shelf, have him do that. It helps you, and you have him, he's trained to watch your back basically. So, and he's trained to, hold down the carpet whenever he's not.
He does a great job.
Yeah. He's a good boy about that. But, yeah, he's been fantastic for me. I knew he was going to be a good dog for me. As soon as I met him, I was like, okay, we got a connection here. And I remember it was like he was teaching the classes. He was so good at all of it. When we'd go do something, they're like, all right, we're going to do this. And they would say what we're going to do, and he would do it. Like when they were just saying it. It was so funny. They're like, well, okay. I'm like, I didn't have to do anything. I'm like, here you go, treat. So that was really easy on me.
Did you see any other people? How many were in your class?
There was 3 of us.
Oh, just 3.
Well, there 4 at the beginning. And
Okay.
then 3, because
I had pictured like 15 people in my head.
they have a lot more that go through at like Point Verde, over in Jacksonville, Florida, at the main campus. I don't know how many they can get. I think like 9 or 10 at a time. But COVID caused a huge.
No doubt. Yeah.
So the waiting time is an issue.
I was going to ask, what's the wait for something like this?
So it was, I think the waiting time was like 10 months to a year.
Wow.
Right. When I signed up. Unfortunately, at that time, right when I was getting close, we went into COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd stopped everything. It was basically stopped. And then they picked it up and they were like, okay, we can have 4-person classes. Keep people pretty well separated.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing that for a while. So that backed up huge amounts.
I bet.
And so it was like 2.5 years for me.
God.
But we got lucky because one of the directors over there called me up and he goes, I'm not promising anything. And that's one good thing about them. I'll say this is once you're in their pipeline, they feel that you're part of their responsibility no matter what. Even if you're 2 years out, they'll call you every couple weeks. Hey, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Has anything changed? Yeah. But has anything changed? They keep track on you, any hobbies that you pick, anything that they might need to know. And also just to check on your well-being and your health, which is really good about them.
Well, they already know you're on the list because you're struggling.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they called me up and he was like, I'm not going to promise anything, but we're pushing through our opening up of this new facility in San Antonio. And I'm like, you already have my attention. And he was like, would you? I was like, yes. The answer is going to be yes, just so you know, because I already know something related to a dog is in this. Yes is the answer. And he's like, okay. And he goes, I'll let you know here really soon. A couple of days later, he calls me up. He goes, yeah, we're going to be able to get a class going in April. And I'm like, I'm there.
Nice.
So all I had to do was just drive down to San Antonio.
Why did you feel so motivated to?
When I got through the process of doing the application, and this thing's worse than getting a security clearance.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
They're going to make sure you're legitimate. You're not going to beat a dog. Yeah. You're not
you
a
don't own
dog
a Korean barbecue.
Yes, exactly. And I'm thankful that they are that thorough with it. And then they want to make sure everything is taken care of for him and for you. So once you do that, you feel committed to the process because like I said, they interact with you so much and they keep you in the loop. And they have a monthly newsletter that goes out. They have, people that the counselors call you, keep up with you, and you get and watching videos, on YouTube or whatever with them, seeing the classes graduate, and you feel good for the veterans that are before you. And you're like, all right, I'm ready. I want to go do mine. Because I'm seeing people being positive about this. Yeah. A lot of positive results, right? And it's well worth the cause is great. The response that the veterans have with the dogs that I've seen has been astronomically better. It's the first week I had him, my wife's like, it's totally different for you.
Really?
It's been totally different.
What do you think was different?
I don't know. Really, it is part of that process that just doing it.
You already had dogs, right?
Yeah.
And so,
yep.
Something, was it the connection that you felt with him?
And the connection and just doing the training together and, and seeing how he's committed to you. And it feels like literally like, he's got your back and it feels like you kind of have a real battle buddy with you. Hey, I got somebody, I got my combat buddy here. So,
I do remember the isolation when I first came home.
Yep.
Like going from having a platoon or 4-man team that I was with all the time to being alone.
And you just knew
that
everyone's ears were on the same purpose, right?
Right. And I knew that whatever we got into, 4 guys were trained similarly, wanted to be there and would die beside me, just like I would beside them in an effort to fight whatever we were fighting.
Common goal.
There was a great sense of security and community and camaraderie in all of that. And to have it taken away sucked.
Yeah.
And
feels like it's like a Band-Aid. They just rip it away.
I think I had a service dog. I just didn't know that that's what it was. Like about 6 to 9 months after I got out, my grandmother bought me a German Shepherd puppy.
Oh, there you go.
And rediscovered that I had a soul. Through that puppy.
So that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, there's, this thing is respecting me. And it's bad when you say things like that and you have a full family around you and stuff, but it's something about that connection that you can get, and it makes you feel different.
It does.
And it just, and you notice yourself cracking a smile every once in a while. You're like, oh, look, I am human. I can do this.
Yeah. She taught me how to love again, and really was my training for fatherhood.
There you go.
Like there ain't nothing
That's
closer than actually having a kid.
Something that, depends on you for life.
100%.
Yeah.
And I did that with her. I wasn't working when I first got out. I went through like the fire academy and EMT school and did all those things. And so she went everywhere with me for the first 6 months of her life.
Cool.
And yeah, I guess she kind of was, but without the formal training. But she gave me that comfort.
Yeah.
That
it's just something to lean on. I mean, it's that, and it's, a good day, bad day. They sense that
for sure.
And he's the wildest thing that ever happened with him so far is we had a very emotional day at Lockheed. We had a former employee. It was in the news. Had something go on. He was separating from the company, kind of, I guess, negatively, right? And he showed back up at the front gate, and he decided that was the place where he was going to commit suicide.
Really?
And he did.
Right at the gate?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And we weren't far behind it.
Like
a few cars back.
Waiting to get in?
Yeah, because it was holding up. And he sensed it. I'm sure he heard it because he could hear it. But I didn't. I had no idea what was going on. I just knew there was an incident over there because I saw security scrambling. I'm like, oh, this is great. And I had just gotten him. And he's being all alert and everything. And he's just like attached to me. And I'm like, okay. And we get in and we find out what's going on. And that was the first time he had ever alerted on me, like, and let me know he knew something was wrong. After they told me, because we all got down, we're like, oh man, that's horrible, right? And he's like, he jumps up and he's like pawing me and asking me to take him for a walk and all that. And that's not necessarily anything he's been trained to do, right? Is to do that. But he was doing that. And the wild thing is there were several people that knew that person that worked on my crew, and they were just upset. And he was within reach of them on my leash, and he would walk over to them, and he was like trying to comfort them.
Whose turn with the dog?
Go
for a walk.
It was like, oh man. I was like, but it was wild to see that. And he was just like noticing, and everybody was having a problem that day. It was pretty neat to see him doing that. And so he's definitely always paying attention and knows what's going on. I mean, it's funny. I don't know now, like when I'm turning or walking, if I can go down an aisle, he has got that stuff down. Like he don't even look at me. He just follows and he does his thing. He's kind of like attached to me. I mean, he literally is, but he's like a third leg.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. And he's always with me. And my son, as I had mentioned, being autistic, he's kind of his service dog too.
Oh yeah.
And so he absolutely adores him. He's like, when he's out of his vest and we're at home, he is with him and he's just like glued to him. And it's pretty special to see that he understands that there's something going on there.
Yeah.
So
have you thought about getting your son a dog?
Not with the 3 labs that we have.
3 others?
Yeah. Stretch, huh? But yeah.
I mean, more like a service dog.
Yeah.
If you think
I've thought about that, honestly, looking into something. But once, the inevitable happens with any of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly for sure.
5 dogs is a lot. And how many kids do you have?
Well, he's my only young child.
Okay.
Yeah. We have 2 adult children.
Okay.
So me and the wife do.
Yeah. 4 dogs and 1 kid.
Yeah.
Your house isn't boring.
No. And we got cats.
Oh,
That's
shit.
funny. And that was the thing. I was actually worried about him. I was like,
cats?
He loves them.
Really? They taste delicious. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. He goes, yeah. Especially cat food, right? Yeah. But no, he's excellent with, other dogs, stuff out in public. And that's one of the things too. They're always around other animals, during their training and stuff like that. So their interactions are always really controlled. They don't get crazy and like, hey, we got to go play.
Yeah.
So
what would you tell guys that that might be considering a service dog?
If there's any consideration into getting one, I think they need to take that leap.
Okay.
And do whatever. I mean, they need to reach out to one of the companies. Absolutely, Canines for Warriors. You know,
are there any others you know of?
There's tons of them. I couldn't even give you the names off the top of my head, but all you got to do is just Google it.
Okay.
But like I said, the resources that Canines for Warriors have, they've gotten so big, and they have such a great supportive staff. That's who I can speak for.
Do they take donations?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes, they do. If anybody's would like to participate and donate in any way, you can go to caninesforwarriors.org, and there's a way to do it on there. Yeah, it is. It's an excellent organization. I fully support them in every way. They not paid promotion or anything like that by me. It's just the facts of the matter that I'm still here, and I'm a lot more functioning in society because of him and their care to give to me. So,
any reason that any contraindications, anything that they notice, or they said it's a long screening process. I assume they screen some people out.
I'm sure they do.
Do you know of any reasons that they don't accept?
No, I would think that if you had some like crazy criminal thing against you or something wild, but I know they, New Leash on Life, that's some of the dogs actually come through that program and stuff like that, where they have convicts, and incarcerated folks training the dogs, which help them. And
sure,
it's a great process. So, I don't know any particular reason. I guess if someone have psychotic,
maybe severely,
something
unstable or doesn't have.
I mean, if you didn't have
a home to keep the dog,
because that is part of it.
A yard.
Hey, are you financially responsible enough to be able to care for him, to provide his veterinary care, and anything that he needs?
Can someone living in an apartment?
Yeah, as long and that. Okay, I'll say that. So if it's a place like that doesn't allow animals, they're considered a prosthetic.
Okay.
So, but it's covered under law, anyways. American Disabilities, so they're allowed to be there. So if they have anything, they're like, oh, I can't have him in the place where I'm at because they don't allow animals. That's not the case. They have to allow them.
What did you ever see any support dogs or service dogs that were also on the aggressive dog list?
Like
a pit.
No, they usually try to. They understand all that, and they choose animals that are going to be widely accepted, usually for the training,
right,
and things like that.
Appearance matters.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, not saying that they couldn't be trained and be perfect.
Sure. I know some great pits.
Yeah,
but people react differently.
They try to choose a genre of animals, and especially the size of the animals. They don't want to be too small.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're not going to train Chihuahuas. Yeah, no, there's the common poodle.
I'm impressed by the poodle thing.
It is a huge amount.
I know that they're smart animals, but I've also heard they can be mean as hell.
I guess that's all part of the training, but no one looks at a poodle and goes, oh, he's going to chew my leg off.
And they just look like stuffed animals.
Yeah, it's funny too, but it's awesome because you'll see those big old burly men down there, and those
with a poodle,
and they got right there, and they're trimmed up and stuff that. But no, I mean, you see them; they're so proud of those dogs afterwards. It's great to see. It's there's a huge pride aspect to it when you're certified and you're able to take your animal and go.
Did you have to go through a testing to get a certification?
Yes, so you get certified.
Okay.
You have to pass your test, or you don't.
Oh, wow.
Get to leave with your animal.
So not just the animal has papers, but you do.
Yes, they give you a card and they see a picture of you and your dog on there saying that you're certified.
Nice.
So yeah, it's it's a big deal for them, and they ensure that you're going to pass. I mean, you're going to pass.
Well, 3 weeks, I'd hope.
But yeah,
at least study for the test.
The commands are simple. It's just being, securing yourself and being, giving the commands accurately and stuff like that, and having the commanded intention of the animal and stuff like that. And the animals are amazing. I mean, when they get to you, they're proud of doing their job. They're just like, oh, I want to show you I can do these commands because I want a treat.
Yeah.
So
my kid's just as food driven.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can get a dog to do pretty much anything with a treat.
That's funny. What are your plans for the future?
As I say, when I grow up, I actually, one of the big things I've been looking into doing is I've always wanted to be a game warden.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Outdoors is my thing.
Yeah.
Outdoors is my thing. I know I ain't talked about that much, but I love hunting, fishing,
no kidding,
and the whole aspect of it. And that's something I've wanted to do since I was 3 years old.
Where would you like to be a game warden?
Texas.
In Texas?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have a degree?
I'm working on it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your degree path?
Criminal justice.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm doing homeland security with counter intel.
Okay.
So
nice. I have one of my best friends off my team is a game warden in Florida.
Oh, nice.
And he loves it. He's also on the dive team.
There you go.
And so they spend about half their time in their truck and half the time in the boat and cruising around. And he really enjoys that job. There's also federal game warden. I don't know if you've looked into that. I tried to go federal.
Yeah.
Federal doesn't actually require a degree. They highly recommend it, and everyone that you're competing against has a degree, right? But it's not required. But it's fascinating. The guy that I knew lived here in Georgetown. His office was in Georgetown, but all of their work was undercover. And so he didn't do any operational stuff in Georgetown where he lived. Yeah. He did everything out of state or sometimes even out of country.
Yeah, because they definitely would want you to be unknown.
Yeah, you can't. You don't want to be known. You don't shit where you eat.
Yeah.
Right? And so his whole thing was predominantly booking guided hunts, guided fishing trips, doing all these
wanting to see if anybody's doing anything completely illegal to ivory.
And if and he's like, if I go on the hunt and if they do something illegal, I write it down.
Yeah.
And we do the hunt, we do the fish. As we fish around, if we're overfishing, hey, we're overfishing. But as we stop everywhere, I'm setting my GPS. Ding, that was the grid where we did this. Ding, this was the grid where we did that.
Amazing job.
And twice or once a year, he would fly to Alaska. They would fly upriver in a plane, and with a GPS, they would log all the campsites that they saw. And they would come back, and then they'd take a boat all the way upriver and pass them all, and then drift down and
check on every site.
Pretend to be having engine trouble. That they were also hunters. They're not game wardens. They're just hunters. Their boat broke down. They need a place to stop and work on it, and just kind of mingle with people and see what they're up to. And he's like, I do the hunts. I do the things. I allow them to break the law, do whatever they want. I document, and I don't see them again until court. I hand it over to the marshals.
That's cool.
And that was cool as shit.
Yeah.
He made great money, and he had a government Cabela's credit card. His entire truck bed was just lined with, he popped the top and it was just everything you could imagine with boats, and it was like a dream job.
I can imagine that.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But
that's
game warden, that's a cool gig.
That's always something. Like I said, I've always loved animals.
Yeah.
And I respect nature in every way. And
do you want to be law enforcement or
no, not
necessarily,
not that field or anything like that, but having that branch,
have you thought about like a park ranger sort of thing?
Well, so that would be definitely something that would be pretty cool to do.
Yeah. I don't know.
On that one.
I don't know about the age requirements on getting into civil service. Usually, I know with the fire department is like 30. I don't know how old you are, but
42.
Okay, so you may have aged out of civil service. I know I have. I'll be 40 next year, but that's a cool goal.
It's one of those things where it's like I've looked at pretty hardcore into the Texas game warden thing, and I'm like,
are you able to do that?
Yeah,
perfect.
They don't have an age limit or anything.
Nice.
So, and you just got to do their little
Have you
physical.
Have you met any game wardens?
I've met a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, out hunting. You know,
all
you
right.
turn around and you're like, whoa. But yeah, no, they're great. You know, they're a great group and everything. Watch it on television. You know, watch the crazy Texas law. And
What's your plan for that? You said you're in college now.
Yeah, so you got to have a degree for it. Obviously,
Yep.
I figured why not do the criminal justice part. Always been interested in a lot of that type of stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, that's
being
the
military,
field.
of course.
That's the field.
And then counter intel and then homeland security type stuff. So I figured that'd be a good one to have for it. And then once I get my degree in that, probably the following course or whatever, I'll try to apply, see if it goes through. Because I heard that you gotta kind of get in with those guys to get into it. So
no doubt.
So I'll probably reach out and try to get on some ride-alongs and get a good name in first.
I remember the academy. My buddy said was the PT was brutal.
Yeah,
he's like they ran our dicks into the dirt every fucking morning.
Well, I mean, the thing is with the game wardens, that's the reason why I have such a draw for it is, I mean, you're by yourself.
Yep,
you're there, and you might have a partner, but
not usually.
If you're controlling an area, and unlike other law enforcement where the person you're chasing might have a gun, they always have something.
Typically, people don't go out without something.
You're not going to go look at a hunter.
Even fishing, I carry a gun.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you never know.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to shoot a
Jaws
fish.
anyway.
You have to shoot my fish. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to show somebody if I catch Jaws. He can make it.
Yeah.
But, it's just one of the things I've absolutely wanted to pursue at some point. And I was so thrilled when I saw that Texas didn't have an age requirement for it. I was like, that's good. I can actually do a career and make a living and then pursue it.
Yeah.
I figured that'd be one hell of a...
Can you take a service dog?
I don't know if that's the case, but like even my current employer that I have, it's a clean room environment because we make bandages, right?
Oh.
He actually has to stay home.
Sure.
So he gets thrilled when I come home and we get to go do something.
Yeah.
And everything. And most cases, he needs to be with me at all times, but it's a very low stress environment where I'm at.
That's good.
So I'm okay with that.
It's possible you could even get an issued canine as a game warden as well.
Yeah, I would think you could.
Yeah.
I mean,
it might be more of a drug dog or a gun sniffing dog. I don't know, whatever.
I mean, I would think that would, since you have so much handling experience or
that'd
whatever,
be an easy segue.
You'd be like, hey, I can work the canine.
Is he like crated at night or anything?
No.
Okay.
He's my pillow half the night, usually.
Yeah, I know canines are usually a little bit more strict in their, I guess, day to day.
Yeah.
Particularly law enforcement canines.
Yeah. For sure.
They don't get nearly the socialization. It doesn't.
No, because they want them to be less friendly and more just straight driven job.
They're bite trained or they're, you're now the game wardens do a lot of work at the border too. Mm-hmm. And
that's one of the things about this one, about Texas is I was like, that's a very involved, so
you're going to get
you back into that
your
role.
Fill of the woods.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome, man. I hope that works out for you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. Like I said, I have a great career right now.
Sure.
And a great job. I mean, I can't complain at all with that, but that's just that's the end of the rainbow thing I would like to do.
Whenever you're not done dreaming, man.
No,
that's what life's about. Like, figure out what you want to do and fucking chase it. Make a plan. It helps curb my anxiety.
Oh, it does.
I feel the most anxious when I'm between goals. I'm useless. And I know it. And I like from my interaction with my family, I'm agitated. I just know it. But once I get a goal, all of that goes away and my focus comes in.
Yeah.
And I've learned that about myself. I have to
get laser focused on what you need to get done.
Something I'm working toward that I give a shit about. Mm-hmm. It can't just be as.
And that's one of the things about like my new job is because we do stuff. It's making an impact really, because it's all specialty bandages and stuff, but it's going to all over the world. But a lot of it's going to places that are in need of that type of stuff right now, and conflict areas and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat.
That's awesome. Good for you, man.
I appreciate it.
You have any last words or anything you'd like to share?
I just want to make sure that the word is out there for, the fellow veterans like us, that, if they need something, just definitely reach out, make that call and check on friends, any of your friends. And if anybody's looking to get a service animal or has a thought that they might possibly could benefit from it, I recommend it 100%. Reach out and just inquire at least. That way you can get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And caninesforwarriors.org, telling you, that's the one I've went through. They are completely committed to the veterans. They're not in it for anything else.
Does it cost you any money?
No, it doesn't cost you a dime.
Wow.
In fact, when you go to the class, that's one thing. Like in Point Verde, they go grocery shopping for you, and they fill their place up with food, whatever you want. If you want something special, they have people that cook for you there and all that. Now, like when we were in San Antonio, we did all our own cooking, but they gave us a credit card, and they're like, "Go get you some groceries." And I thought it was funny when we were doing that. We're all running around. We're grabbing cereal and milk and some bread and some peanut butter, right? They're like, "Please go put that back and go get you what you want."
I'm on a tri-tip diet.
Yeah. So, but if you wanted to eat filet mignon,
hell yeah,
go get it. Nice. They don't care. They're like, get what you want. Get your sodas. Get your Red Bulls. Get what's going to make you operate and be happy.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's pretty cool. The only thing I won't buy you is cigarettes or something, but no alcohol and cigarettes. But yeah, you can't get win Powerball while they're dime. But they get
I'll
everything you need.
You.
Yeah, right. I'll pay that back.
$10 ticket.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, they take care of you. They treat you like royalty. And that's a good thing about it is it takes a lot of stress off your mind and stuff like that. And, they go through airport travel. That's part of the training, all that stuff. And they teach you how to book it, all that things. And they have a thing that so you can have him paid for his veterinary services through the VA as well.
Wow.
You can actually get that registered through them. I have yet to do that. But that's part of the course. Yeah. And you can get it because they run him as a prosthetic. So it goes through that department.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I recommend it to all veterans if they're considering it, having troubles, get whatever help they need. And if you consider an animal, absolutely do it because it's made a world of difference for me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, man. Thanks for
absolutely.
coming in. I appreciate it.
It's been a great time.
It's great to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Cool.
Thanks.
Stay zero, guys.